Very warm welcome, Dr. Aggie. So, just a quick introduction to our speaker today. Dr. Aggie has spent more than 24 years in industry as well as academia, focusing on financial and marketing analytics. So he brings a unique combination of experience of working in the industry, so getting how the work is done exactly in the industry, and also having a great experience of explaining some of these data science concepts in the simplest format to a lot of students. So that's what makes his experience very unique. Thank you for accepting our request to talk with us, Dr. Aggie. How are you doing?
I'm fine, Pratik. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Dr. So for our viewers, I wanted to ask a couple of questions quickly before we go into the theme, the main theme, which is what are the different machine learning and analytics models which are there, or algorithms which are there. First, I wanted to ask you about your data science journey, Dr. Aggie. So I know you have spent a lot of years in the field. So how did you choose to get started with data science?
All right. Thank you. Well, my highest level of education was my fellow program at IIM Ahmedabad. It was, it's equivalent to a PhD program.
Yeah.
So we learned quite a bit of data science subjects there, but then it was application of those areas were fairly limited in business. It was basically limited to some logistic management or some less very niche areas in finance industry. So after completion of the fellow program, I was in teaching. So both the marketing subjects and quantitative subjects. And that was the time this analytics boom started, really.
And this was when? Which year?
It was beginning of 2000.
Okay.
Yeah,
a lot of years back.
Yeah, so quite some time back. So in fact, GE was the first company to bring a lot of analytics work to India.
Yes, General Electric. Yeah,
General Electric, and it was being driven by Srikanth Das.
Okay.
He was also an academician. So they were looking for people with PhD qualification, and then I thought, okay, this is the right time to get some industry experience. So then I switched over to industry and then decided to continue for quite some time, both at GE and iGate. These were the two main organizations I worked. Okay. And then later on, I thought that, okay, fine, I will leave the industry for some time as full-time job.
Yeah.
And switched over to academics, training, and some consultancy.
Great.
This is.
Thank you, Dr. Aggie. And I've been one of the participants as well in one of your corporate consulting and training assignments that we were doing together for one of the largest manufacturers in the world. And I remember when that topic of discussion came that what is the right method to choose which machine learning or predictive modeling technique that one should use in what business situation. You gave a great explanation to all the audience that were there. So I thought, I would ask you the same question. First, maybe you would, if you can explain, what are the most commonly used machine learning algorithms or predictive analytics algorithms which are there? And then maybe shed some light as to what is the right method to choose the right algorithm in what situation, if you can.
Sure. It is a very wide area. But since the time we were attending that meeting and today, there's a lot of changes that happened already. And a big area of discussion these days is the world is moving towards machine learning.
Yep.
Machine learning and artificial intelligence. At the same time, we learned quite a bit of statistics right in the beginning, because without learning the basics of statistics, we can't go into these areas.
Absolutely right.
Exactly. So the question is, when it comes to addressing a problem, do we go with the statistics-based algorithm or machine learning-based algorithm?
Right. And how do you differentiate the two?
All right. So statistics-based algorithms are based on that itself is a very wide area.
Yes.
It's a sampling theory.
Okay.
Okay.
Estimation and
So exactly. So it has got a big background on sampling theory. And what do we want to happen when we draw a sample from a population? Then looking at what we get from the sample, to what confidence you can predict what was in the population. So it is a big area on its own.
So can you give me one example, a simple example for our viewers?
All right. So the whole idea about starting with evaluating mean, and then that will give you a kind of a central tendency for a sample of data. Mm-hmm. Then we will look at the standard deviation. That will tell you how much variation is there in the data. So we start from there.
Okay.
Then we will move towards hypothesis testing.
Right.
Okay. The simplest hypothesis testing is to what confidence we can say a mean of a data is this one quantity.
Okay.
So that is where
I just want to ask you, this hypothesis testing is a very interesting area. So I've seen a lot of application of hypothesis testing as well in general in the world of data science. So can you give us an example, or maybe a business example, or a simple example that people can quickly understand?
All right.
When you say hypothesis testing.
Yeah. So it is very simple. So the most simplest way is to understand this problem I was just mentioning. That is, okay, let's say that we are doing some experiment or evaluating a product.
Okay.
And we expect that the density of that product is maybe about 10 grams per centimeter cube.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is the density we expect. Now we take a number of samples and check the densities. Of course, it will not be equal to exactly 10 grams. It may be 9.8 grams.
Yes.
Now, looking at that data, to what extent we can say that, yes, we are confident that we can go with this lot of sample. We can take it to the market. So that is the simplest hypothesis test.
Okay.
So we will say that the mean is equal to 10 grams, mean of the density is equal to 10 grams per centimeter cube, versus it is not.
Okay. So the hypothesis is just a statement that we make, and then we statistically test it, whether that statement is right or not.
Right.
If I may, since it's an IPL season right now, can I make can the hypothesis statement be like that batsmen give us more impact on on winning the matches? Can that be a hypothesis? And then we test with all the...
We can boil down to a hypothesis if we have a data to support that.
Right.
Because ultimately we need to have data to support any hypothesis. Otherwise, it will just stay as a hypothesis.
So here the data could be the past matches where the batsmen played well and the teams won.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. All right. So we were on the topic of statistics versus machine learning. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So there are to address the same problem, there are algorithms which are built on the basis of statistics. Mm-hmm. Versus algorithms which are built on the basis of machine learning. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, at the first level of choice is which one would you choose?
Yes.
All right. So the interesting difference between the statistics and machine learning is that statistics-based algorithms are very, very transparent.
Okay.
For example, if we evaluate cardiac problem of patients and how it is influenced by age and BP and his smoking habits, so on and so forth. If it is a statistics-based algorithm, we can make fantastic evaluations on how each of the variables are influencing. For example, if we can come to the conclusion that if age increases by 1 year, to what extent his cardiac risk will change, by what percent.
Right.
Okay. With respect to all the variables we used, we can make a fantastic evaluation. Okay. So that is the power of statistics.
So you're saying statistical algorithm gives us the reasonings as well as to
Exactly.
what could be the impact on the ultimate outcome.
Absolutely.
Okay.
But if we use a complex machine learning algorithm, to a great extent, it's a black box.
Okay.
Okay. But the advantage of machine learning algorithm is that in terms of accuracy, it can give a much better accuracy.
Okay. So when you say black box, that means we don't know what exactly is going on within
inside that, which are the variables are brought and which are the variants are made it into interactions, so on and so forth. There's no way we can dig in and find out what exactly happened inside the algorithm.
Okay.
Okay. So the choice is very clear. If you want transparency and such evaluations, you go with the statistics. And if your objective is pure prediction, accurate prediction, then you go with the machine learning.
So can I ask you one question?
All right. No.
Sorry. You said machine learning is black box. Algorithms are black box. So we don't know what really goes on inside it. And you also said that machine learning algorithms gives you more accuracy. So if I may ask, if it is black box, then how do people choose which machine learning algorithm to use when?
All right. Okay, these machine learning algorithms, there are so many superstars. Okay, so one of the superstars, you may know something called random forest.
Yes.
Then there is something called XGBoost.
Yeah.
Then there is something called light GBM, so on and so forth. There are some superstars in the around. Okay, now the power of these algorithms, these algorithms will not work equally well on all situations.
Yes.
So you have, for our data, XGBoost may do a good job compared to random forest. So we will have to test and find out which one to choose.
So in which situation do we use which algorithm, which machine learning algorithm? How do we choose that?
All right, very interesting question. Well, if I go about 10 years back, 10 or 15 years back, we used to have some thumb rules.
Yes.
We used to say that if the data size is small and there are good separations between the classes, then we may go with this algorithm. If your data is huge and if it is noisy, then this algorithm, so on and so forth. These days, we will not go with any of such judgment.
Okay.
The golden rule is simple and clear: test and decide.
Okay, so you're saying that all the machine learning algorithms in all
we won't be able to test all. There are too many, but at least we will have about 4 or 5 interesting candidates.
Okay.
Okay.
And what are those 4 or 5 interesting candidates?
So we will start with a base model.
Okay.
Which is typically a logistic regression or a linear regression.
So, okay, so that is logistic we normally use when the data is classification based. The outcome is yes or no, whether the person will default on a credit card or not default.
Exactly.
And linear regression we use when we have to figure out how much of sales, price can determine or discount can determine the amount, the quantitative amount, right?
Yes, our dependent variable is continuous. Exactly like you have mentioned, sales is a continuous variable. Then a price, we can predict price, so on and so forth. Yeah.
So then we use linear regression.
Yeah, then when we use a linear regression. So logistic regression or linear regression will be a base model.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good.
Then we will pick up other models of coming algorithms from the machine learning.
Okay.
And for that, typically these days, we will, broadly these are grouped into bagging and boosting.
Okay.
So we will pick up 1 or 2 algorithms from bagging family and 1 or 2 algorithms from boosting family.
So if I may ask, sir, just quickly, the difference, what is the meaning of bagging and what is the meaning of boosting?
Okay, so now we are going into quite technical areas. Okay, but I can explain very fine. All right. Bagging stands for bootstrap aggregation.
Okay.
Okay, which means that we will select samples using bootstrap sampling.
Okay.
From our data.
Okay.
Okay. Bootstrap sampling means sampling with the replacement. Okay. All right. So then what we are saying is that from our data, we will create many samples.
Okay.
Okay. Then we will build many models.
Okay.
Then we will bring the results of all these models together
Yes.
and make it into one algorithm.
Okay. Looks like an
That's bagging.
ensemble model.
Huh?
Looks like
Exactly, ensembling. It's absolutely ensembling. Okay, it's ensembling. That is bagging.
Okay.
Okay. Boosting means we will start with the data. We will build a model. Then we will look at the error of that model.
Okay.
Okay. Then what we'll do is we will change the weight of certain data points in that data set.
Okay.
Then we will build another model.
Okay.
Then we will look at the errors. Change the weight of certain data points.
Sure.
Then we will build another model. So it goes sequentially.
Okay. So
Okay.
you're saying that bagging and boosting would both require building multiple models,
Yes.
right? And
yes.
so basically the idea is to get better and better accuracy.
Exactly. Exactly. But keep in mind, these are happening behind us. We will not do it.
Yes.
Yeah, we will only tell the algorithm inside when you are building this model, build 200 models.
Yeah.
So the algorithm will take care of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So that's why machine learning algorithms end up giving us
Exactly.
much more accuracy,
Yeah.
because there are so many models running behind the
True.
scene, and hence it becomes black box.
Yes.
Right? We don't know exactly which model and how it worked, and hence we call it as a black box set of algorithms.
True. Yes. Yeah. So we were on the topic of we were asking which are the models. So what I was telling is that typically we'll have a base model, then one or two models from the bagging family, and one or two models from the boosting family. So then we may have about 4 or 5 candidates. We will test it and we'll pick up the best, or we may even use all of them together. We'll make an ensemble of 5 models.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is fine as far as increasing the accuracy is concerned. But challenge in machine learning is that it can overfit.
Yes.
Overfit means on the data we are using for modeling, it can give a fantastic accuracy. But then the moment the data changes, it will collapse.
Yes.
Okay. So the challenge in building machine learning algorithm or solutions is to tune the model such that our solutions are not overfitting. So there are methods to do that. Okay, but ultimately, compared to a statistics-based model, it can give us a better accuracy. So
more accuracy, however, it takes more time to build, more data to build, and also justifying why the accuracy is coming becomes difficult with machine learning algorithms.
Absolutely.
Whereas the statistical algorithm you are saying can be justified. We know exactly what input variable and how much it impacts the output.
True. Let me bring an interesting example from my work experience.
Sure.
I was in marketing analytics for quite some time, and we used to build models to predict sales. And our variables are things like a price, advertisement, different types of advertisement, TV, radio, newspaper, then all kinds of promotions, so on and so forth. So those are the variables which will influence sales. Okay. Now, to build this solution, we always used to use statistics-based models. Okay, because our focus is on the coefficients. Because the clients are interested in knowing what is the impact of TV advertisement on the sales. That the coefficient can come only from a statistics-based model. So our solutions were always based on statistics.
So when you say, sorry to interrupt here, when you say coefficient, what do you mean by that in this example that you just gave?
See, linear regression is a model in the format of y equals mx plus c.
Yes.
Y is the sales. M is the coefficient. X is our one of the independent variable. So M is referring to the coefficient.
Right.
So so that M will tell you how much our Y will change with the unit change in X.
Yes.
Yeah. So a linear regression has got coefficient. very well-defined coefficient, and it also can tell you whether those coefficients are significant or not through hypothesis testing.
Right.
Okay, so when we build this model, if the radio advertisement is not significant, it is a valuable information for the company. Basically, we are telling the company that in the last year, your radio advertisement didn't bring you any sales.
Right.
Yeah. So these are all valuable information for the company.
Right.
So statistics-based models was the algorithm we were using for this marketing analytics. Focus was not on achieving higher and higher accuracy. Okay. Even if some trade-off is there with the lower accuracy, but the importance was on transparency.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
So, wanted to ask you one more question here. So, we've spoken about a lot of different techniques in very, very short time. We have also spoken about statistical techniques and machine learning techniques and how to decide which one to use when. I wanted to ask you that because there are so many machine learning algorithms available, and you spoke about a few of them, and you said that 4 or 5 of them are the best candidates. Which are those best candidates machine learning algorithms that we use very often?
Well, very interestingly, these keep changing. Okay. So one candidate which is staying for quite some time is something called a random forest.
Okay.
So it is basically a collection of so many decision trees.
Right.
Decision trees is a simple model, is a building block. So random forest will bring so many of these decision trees and make it into one algorithm.
Okay.
All right. So it belongs to bagging family.
Yes.
Then we have situations. There are a few algorithms comes under boosting family.
Okay.
So then these they are things like XGBoost. Then sometime back, about 6 months back, a Russian scientist introduced a package called CatBoost.
Oh, okay.
So they say that that algorithm do well with the categorical independent variables.
Okay.
For some time, that was a superstar.
Okay.
Then there is a Microsoft product called LightGBM.
Okay, LightGBM.
So it was developed by Microsoft. Then they released to outside world. So these days, many people are reporting that LightGBM is working better than XGBoost or CatBoost.
Okay.
So these are some. Then there are some specialized packages like there's a package called Support Vector Machines.
SVM. Okay.
SVM. So this will work in certain situations, not a generalist. So if there is a very well-defined separation between the classes, support vector machine can do a good job.
Okay.
Then there is something called an algorithm based on Bayesian theory, called naive Bayes. Naive Bayes. So this algorithm can do a good job if there is an interconnection between the independent variables.
Okay.
So because of that, people have reported that naive Bayes can do a good job for predicting spam.
Okay.
Spam mails.
Yeah.
Okay. Because spam mails, a mail which is spam or not, will depend on the kind of words in the mail.
Right.
So there is quite a bit of interconnections between these words. So naive Bayes can do a good job there. All right. Okay. So these are some of the candidates. But from our discussion, we should not miss a big area we have not touched.
Which is
that area is artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And deep learning. Okay. So that is a big area on its own where statistics is not a choice at all.
Okay.
There is nothing parallel to statistics there. So in those situations, we have to go with the deep learning solutions.
Okay. And what could be some of those deep learning solutions or models?
So mainly for image recognition.
Image recognition.
For example, if you got some 1,000 scans of chest,
right,
and we want to find out which are the cancerous one or non-cancerous ones,
right?
Okay, that's a typical area. So you will have to go in deep into the pixels.
Okay.
and see some pattern in the pixels
Okay.
and bring it out.
Okay.
So those are so in those areas, deep learning is the solution. So that is why, since there are so many such image recognition based algorithms, problems are there out there now. This data science community's big area of attention now is on this deep learning.
Deep learning. So we've spoken about statistics, machine learning, and now deep learning.
Deep learning, yes,
right.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And then video, image recognition, making some conclusions out of videos. Then even audio.
Okay.
Audio. Then again, text-based evaluations.
Okay.
Okay. So these are all the areas where deep learning is getting more and more applications.
Okay.
Again, with the COVID in the scene, there is a lot of attention on this researchers connected with those areas, and virus and bacteria, such kind of research. And deep learning is finding a big application in those areas.
Again, deep learning models are also black box, would you say?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's a black box. Yeah. So typically, to explain what is a deep learner is. We normally talk about artificial intelligence solutions based on neural network.
Okay.
Neural net. So neural network has got nodes. Yeah. So there are nodes which are the collection of different connections of different variables.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Typically, when we build a neural network, we may have a few nodes and one or two hidden layers. So hidden layers are the layers where these nodes are getting formed.
Okay.
Okay. Now, such a small neural network has got its own limitations.
Okay.
So, but for handling such a challenging problems, what people have done is to make that neural network huge.
That means
more with hundreds of nodes. Exactly. Hundreds of nodes, huge number of hidden layers. Okay, so neural networks on a boost is what we can call a deep learner.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is what. So there are the players in these fields are mainly two. There is a TensorFlow from Google. Yeah. And PyTorch from Facebook.
Okay. So these are the two major platforms.
So they are the makers of this, but they released it to the open source community. So for us to use, it doesn't cost anything. Yeah.
And plus, it makes it much simpler. You do not have to be so worried about the complexity behind these neural network models.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. That make our life very easy. Yeah.
So you've spoken about a lot of things in the very, very short time: statistical algorithm, machine algorithms, deep learning algorithms.
Correct.
Now, I wanted to ask you, there are a lot of young aspirants that we deal with at Ivy Pro School. I wanted to ask you, since you've got such expansive understanding of this area, what tips would you give to any newbie data science aspirant? How can you say that a non-computer engineer or a non-statistician can also learn some of these? So what kind of tips would you give to those guys?
True. So to start with, this is really a good area because, of course, because of COVID, there is some slowness in the growth of opportunities. But then, this data science field is not a bubble.
Yeah,
it is here to stay, because ultimately behind data science is process improvement.
Okay.
Is it not? Ultimately, that is what we are trying to achieve through data science. And our quest for improving whatever we are doing will continue. We will never stop. So to that extent, the data science will grow. It will move on to different area. For example, self-driving cars. We never thought about that.
Right.
But it is full of deep learning solutions. Yeah. So to that extent, the first thing to tell our students is that don't get disappointed.
Okay.
Use this time to prepare well, and economy will pick up.
Yeah.
And definitely there will be more opportunities.
Sure.
Then to go into tips on how to prepare, one thing I tell the students is that this data science field is huge. All kinds of things are there inside. So to that extent, we won't be able to study and prepare everything.
Okay.
So what is important is that study and prepare essential stuff, but more in depth.
Okay.
Yeah. So essential stuff means the basics of statistics.
All right. Very
Then
good.
data cleaning and exploratory data analysis.
Okay.
Then machine learning algorithms. And if it is possible, go into artificial intelligence and neural network. If you are not able to go into it, that's fine. But if you can prepare this much, little more deep, that will be good, because it is okay to tell a company hiring you that yes, I didn't study deep learning. Yes. That's okay. But what you have studied, you should be confident.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, so that is definitely one thing.
So,
second thing is that
statistics, exploratory data analytics and cleaning, and machine learning algorithms. These are the three essential things that
essential stuff. Second thing is that their style of study. Okay. One thing we need to keep in mind is that data science field is extremely practical. It's not a theoretical subject. It's practical.
Yes.
So our study also must reflect that.
Okay.
So that means you have to study theory, then you must practice it.
Okay.
So because going through theory and going through somebody else's code, we may get an idea that we are learning everything. But only when you start coding and analyzing data independently, then only our education will be complete.
Very good point. So basically you're saying that get your hands dirty.
Exactly. There is no alternative to that. We have to get our hands dirty. Then thirdly, we have to go public. These days, all kinds of tools are available for going public. Yeah, there is LinkedIn, there is GitHub, there is Medium. I mean, everything is there. YouTube. All right. So we already start noticing these data science students, mostly from university abroad. They keep publishing something on the on any of these platforms. They may write a Medium article, they may write a kernel and publish in the GitHub or on the Kaggle. Yeah. So along with the study, you also will have to share what you are doing with the outside world.
Very, very good.
That is very essential. Important.
So basically, you're saying that make your learning social, right?
Exactly. Then again, coming to this idea about being focused, I would suggest that focus should be on the choice of language also.
Okay.
And so there is no need to put our head into both. Right now, there are only two, Python and R. Right. I would suggest don't put your head into both.
Okay.
Choose one and stick with it so that you become good in that.
Okay.
And again, when a company interview you, it is okay to tell them, yes, that language I didn't start studying. That's okay.
Okay.
So that's not a problem. That's not a problem.
So you're saying that focus on one, become very, very good in either Python or in R.
Exactly. Yeah. So these are the broad tips I would like to give you for people who are looking for data science job. Yeah.
Can I ask you one more question? A lot of times we hear from our students that I'm not an engineer, I am not from statistics or economics background. Can I actually learn these things or not? So what is your take on it?
But the point is that there should be some interest in that field.
Okay,
whatever may be your background. Because when I was teaching with Narasimhanji, we had this business analytics specialization for MBA students. In one of the year, the student who came first in the analytics program was a student with a BA English background. Okay, then she got placed in Citibank in their analytics their analytics team. Okay, so ultimately I would say that your interest is what matters. The rest of the stuff we can pick up. Okay,
so you're saying that to a student, I mean, it's not necessary that you have to have an engineering or statistics, maths, eco background. However, your interest should be aligned with learning about data, right? That's a
Yes,
very
yes,
important
yes,
thing.
yes,
And as you
yes.
gave an example that there was a BA in English person who topped in one of the analytics programs that you.
Correct.
Very good.
Correct. Yeah, because again, we need to keep in mind that once we are placed in a analytics organization, all jobs are not homogeneous.
Yes.
Okay, so so we work in a team. So there are opportunity to leverage the strength of each person. For example, one person may be very good in statistics. Okay, so in a team we will leverage him. Another person may be a cat in programming in Python.
Right.
Okay, so we'll leverage him. So to that extent, shades of strengths and skills, can vary from one person to another. So that's okay. That's accepted. So still you can contribute towards an analytics organization.
Very good. Very good. Thanks a lot, Dr. Reggie, for great
Thank
tips
you.
here. One last question for you.
Sure.
Why do you think this millennium will be the millennium for data science?
See, Pratik, a very interesting question. The point is that, when I started working in this field, there used to be certain areas where data science is applied. And those areas are, reactivation campaign, evaluation of default or delinquency, then evaluation of resignation. So there were certain areas where data science is applied.
Right.
Now, though all those barriers are broken, now the situation is that it is very difficult to find areas where it is not getting applied. For example, if you listen carefully to even political debates, these people start using terms like false negatives, false positives and all, is it not? So that means it has spread to that level. So what happens is that it will spread to areas where we wouldn't even imagine.
Okay.
There is robotics out there. It requires a lot of data science application. There are self-driving cars. Then there is a lot of work we need to do for understanding natural language. There is a lot of work required for health-related researches. I mean, the world is out there which need a lot of improvement. And all this requires data science. There's no question about it.
Because data is everywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Reggie. Great talking to you. You gave us a lot of pointers, but a few of the pointers that I really liked it. You said that do not try and learn a lot of things, but learn a few things like statistics, exploratory data analytics, and basics of machine learning, but learn them so well that you become an expert on that. And then you also said that pick up one language or one tool, whether it is R or Python, and stick to it, become very, very good at it. And the third that you very importantly gave, that become public, go social, share your knowledge with the world. Exactly. Go to Medium, go to GitHub, go to LinkedIn, talk about what you know, because the world is social. And recruiters are out there looking for people like you.
Sure.
Great talking to you, Dr. Reggie. Thanks for wonderful tips and wonderful explanation of all these different techniques, machine learning and statistical techniques that we spoke about.
Sure.
Great catching up with you.
It was great catching up with you, Pratik. Thanks. I really enjoyed. Thank you.
Same here. Thank you.